Hello and welcome. In this video segment we will work through step 1 through 11 of tutorial 3. These steps will demonstrate how the geometry of the part is constructed. On the screen is the completed geometry. Shortly I will create a new file and start at step 1. For step 1 I will create the slot on the left hand side of the part. The center of the lower arc on this slot is x0, y0. Let's get going and start a new part and start at step 1. Moving up to the top left hand corner of my screen, I'm going to hit the icon for new part. The center of the grid is x0, y0 at origin. Next I'm going to move up and select create and then pick rectangular shapes. The radio button is turned on for base point, so that's good. Moving on down, for the width I'm going to input 0.76. Moving on down, the height 2.01. Next I'm going to move on up and hit the expand. Moving on down into the shapes area, I'm going to select odd round shape, and for the anchor point I'm going to pick this point in the lower midpoint. Everything looks good here. Now it's time to input the coordinates. I'm going to move on up and hit the fast point icon. For the x value I'm going to type in 0, then comma, and for the y, minus 0.76 slash 2. 0.76 divided by 2. The width of our slot is 0.76. I'm going to hit enter and everything looks great. I'm going to pick OK. Next we're going to offset these entities that we've just created. Let's move on up, Xform, Offset, Contour. When prompted, select the chain. I'm going to pick this left vertical line and then move on over and pick OK. Starting at the top, you can see we've got copy turned on. Number of steps is set to 1. For the distance, I'm going to input 0.37. Moving on down, preview is turned on, but I'm going to put a check mark against fit as well. Everything looks good here. Pick the OK and then move up, and I'm going to do a clear colors. Moving on now to step 2, we're going to create a 9/16 diameter hole and a 1.5 diameter arc. Let's select create, arc, and then circle center point. For the first circle, the diameter, I'm going to input 9/16, hit enter. Now when prompted for the center point, I'm going to go up and pick fast point icon. My x value is 5.5, comma, and for the y 2.75, and then hit enter. I'm going to do a screen fit, and there it is. Next I'm going to move over, pick the apply button to continue. For the next diameter I'm going to input 1.5, hit enter, and for the center point it shares the center point of the circle that we just created. So as you can see, I'm going to snap to the center of that arc. Everything looks great. I'm going to hit the OK and also do a screen fit. Let's move on now to step 3. We're going to do some filleting. Create, fillet, and then pick Fillet Entities. First thing I'm going to do is set up the radius. I'm going to type in 6.0, and then moving over to the right, I'm going to set the trim to No Trim. Now when prompted, select an entity. I'm going to move on down, pick this arc, and then this arc. Now the prompt, select the fillet to use. Which one do I want? I'm going to pick this arc at the top. Everything looks good. I'm going to apply. For the next fillet, the radius is 4.2. I'm going to move on down and select this arc and then this one. Again, select the fillet to use. I'm going to pick this one. Everything looks great. Going to hit OK and also do a screen fit. Step 4. We're going to create a 1-inch radius fillet. So back up, create, fillet entities. I'm going to input radius 1.0. Move over to the right, no trim. Now I'm going to move on down. When prompted to select an entity, I'm going to pick this arc, followed by this one. Now when prompted, select the fillet to use. I'm going to pick this arc. Everything looks great. I'm going to pick OK. Step 5. We're going to do some trimming. Edit, Trim Break, Trim Break. I'm going to pick the one entity trim. When prompted, select the entity to trim. I'm going to select this arc, and then the next prompt, select the entity to trim, extend to. I'm going to pick this arc, and this arc has been successfully trimmed back to this arc. Let's move on now to step 6. We're going to create some arcs. So hit OK, create arc, and this time we're going to create arc polar. For the radius, I'm going to input 0.56 and move over. For the start angle, I'm going to leave that set at 0. I'm going to tab over, and for the end angle, 180. When prompted, enter the center point. What I'm going to do is select relative. Now when prompted, enter a known point or change to a long mode. This next circle is measured on the drawing from the center of this hole. So I'm going to pick the center of that hole and then move up and input the relative coordinates. Minus 3.4, that's my x value, comma, and 1.25 in y, and then hit enter. Let's do a screen fit, and there's the arc. Going to move on over and hit the check mark. Step 7, we're going to do some filleting again. So create, fillet entities. First thing is input the radius 0.38. Again, I'm going to select the trim to no trim. Moving on down to the graphics screen, select an entity. I'm going to pick this arc and move on down, pick this arc. For the next prompt, I'm going to pick this arc, followed by this one. Everything looks great. We'll trim this up later. I'm going to pick OK. Let's move on to step 8. We're going to create 9/16 diameter circle. So create arc, create circle center point, the diameter 9/16, enter. When prompted, enter the center point. I'm just going to move on down and snap to the center of this arc. Everything looks great. I'm going to pick OK. For step 9, we're going to trim some entities. So let's move into Edit, Trim Break, and this time I'm going to pick Trim to Entities. Now when prompted for the entities to trim, I'm going to move on over, pick this arc at the top, and this fillet. Those guys have trimmed successfully. Going to pick this arc and this arc down here. Everything's looking great. What I'd like to do now is trim this part of the arc. What I'm going to do is move on over and select Divide, and then when prompted, select the curve to divide. I'm going to pick this arc. Everything looks great here. Let's pick OK. Now on to step 10. Later on, we will be chaining the outside contour to create the contouring toolpath. To enable us to do this, we need to break the existing arcs at their intersection. So let's go back up, Edit, Trim Break, but this time break at intersection. When prompted, select Entities to break. I'm going to go up and select the All button, and then at the bottom of this dialog box I'm going to pick the check mark for OK. It's picked all the entities. I'm going to move up to the right of the screen and select End Selection, and then Repaint. If you look now, instead of one arc we have one and another arc segment here. Initially this was one arc, but we've broken it at the intersection point. Now on to step 11, our final step, saving the file. File, Save As, and now you can type in the name of the file. This completes this video segment. Thanks for watching.